Everybody, welcome back. We're doing another Undecember video. In this one, we're going to do what's called some starter basics. There's a lot of people who are starting to play this game, got a lot of questions about some things that I don't think the game does a really good job of explaining. So we're going to jump into some, what I'll call, like I said, starter basics. So one of the first things that you'll probably know when you're on the Sandwalker, when you start this game, is you start to get a weapon. You know, basically those weapons lead to what stats you might want to build. Now, one thing to note, do you see how this shows requirements on this? So for instance, these requirements here, those are not the stats you get. Those are requirements to hold said weapon. Every weapon might have something different. They show different ways to do it. And then you get different stats amongst them. I'll talk about these things here in a little bit, but you can also get additional stats on this as well. But depending which weapon you're getting, which requirements you're going to go, there's another part of the game that also builds into your damage, your builds, whatever you want to call it, your zodiac. So when you come in here and you look at your zodiac, again, you can focus on these stats here. Depending which direction you want to go, that sort of ties with those weapons like I mentioned. The next part of it is you start getting these zodiac constellations on the side. Don't stress too much about perfection here. You can kind of get an idea of what you want to get. Also, on the do note that these things, there's an arrow off to the side here. You can click to go to the side. Off to the right here, there's arrows. You can see it better on this side over here. So you can cycle through these, and they've got different ones. They've got trait 1, 2. They take a while to get into. They'll have a certain thing where it's like you can't use this until 10 or 15 are used or something like that. It just depends. So like if I try to click on this one over here, a total of 61 traits before I can even mess with this. You'll slowly work into those. Don't stress too much. Again, you can typically reset these. There's a reset button over in the bottom corner, which you can't see because it's behind me. But you can reset these points and you get them as you level. The other part of your build weapons are what's called runes. You hit K to get to these. You get skill runes and you get link runes. Those are the two differences. There's also some other stuff about magic runestones. I'm not going to get into that. In the tutorial that you see at the beginning of the game, they do have many of these different skill runes that you can use and pick so you can get a flavor for what you might like. And then you just build around them. You level these up, which I'll show you how to do in a second. And some of them, this is one thing I'll throw in here. It's a little bit more in a starter situation, but you can actually link like a spell activation on hit. I think there's another one that's like I think it's physical activation on use or hit or something like that. But basically you can use for spells and melee situation where you can link two activities so they both happen at the same time, which is awesome. But on this, figure out a couple that you like, level the skill rune and potentially the link rune. You can see a lot of the stuff I have in here is pretty low. You don't need to go crazy with leveling these, so don't go nuts. Also, then you come over here and you can, in this other button up here on the right, and you can actually put these on whatever slot you want. So this is the one that I had linked before, this chain lightning. I use that to actually go through and link the other one. I just have to have it on my bar. And then you can click control to switch between these two. So like in game, you can see when I hit control, it switches my bottom down here on what I've got. Okay. So that's what you can see. And this right one, you can click T to have that constantly cycled. So I use an ability that makes sense to constantly cycle, like cold armor. So I'm talking about leveling these up. You should have off to the side here, they have a nice little map thing where you can go to your mystic. If you see here, there is an item that's called, it's rune growth, rune enchant. There's a rune shop if you want to buy stuff. Rune growth is where you can build these up. You can see that I've got different levels, 11, 7, 6. Some of them I built up and like I don't really use. So that's what I'm saying. Like, until you really get things figured out, don't stress about building them all up. Find something that you want to use. I like the frost shock build right now. There's other things with the whirlwinds. And then you'll have different materials. These aren't all of them. It's just what I have in my bag because I put stuff in storage. But then you can come in here and you register and it builds it up and you pay gold to build it. And you'll get some more buffs on whatever it might be each level you go. That's how you build those up. You can do the same thing with the links where you can click this one, register, and again you use material on there where you register and you can pay for it to build up a bit. That's how you build those up. I would recommend only building enough so that the content doesn't feel too difficult, because you want to save as much as you can until you figure out what direction you want your builds to go. I mentioned these little dots on your gear that show up. They'll be blank if you don't have them filled in or enchanted, but there is a crazy RNG for those. I wouldn't stress too much about getting those perfect, but it does come into play with elemental resists and things like that. So go to your gear vendor, or, you know, if you're looking off to the side again, your blacksmith, go to your blacksmith, click on the top where it says enchant, and then you can drop whatever piece you want in there. And then you can, depending what it is, if it's rare, magic, unique, etc., will depend which one of these pieces you want to use, and it'll highlight. So luckily it'll show like, oh, okay, I can use this thing, so then I can enchant it. Now I'm not going to do that, and there is a part of this where some of these do all of them, some of them just do one. I have to admit, I'm still figuring out exactly how that sort of syncs up, but I would say that as you get like a purple one, don't stress too much about using the purple snake ones. Just get something on there, try to make sure it's decent, and then move on. You're going to replace this gear pretty quickly. You don't want to sit there and spend a lot of time wasting a lot of these mats. You can see that, and I like to keep a lot of my stuff in storage, even though I have not paid for anything. I've dropped a lot of this stuff in here in storage. So that way I just know that, you know, it's there. I can go grab it anytime I want to play with something. But when you want to get your gear with those items on it, that is exactly how you do it. You just go in there, go to your gear guy, drop those in there. The purple snakes work for the magic gear, the yellow for the yellow, so on and so forth. And just make sure that you have some of this on here. And as you get later, you know, you want to maybe get movement speed on your boots, stuff like that. You want to make sure you get resists on your gear. But again, I don't want to get too much into that right now. I'd say the biggest thing as a starter is just go through the story, explore the zones, get the drops that you can. Once you start getting to act 2, 3, 4, you're going to want to make sure you have some decent stuff, maybe have some resists, etc. But just work yourself through the story in that manner. Build up your runes. Some other basics, waypoints. These things pop up everywhere on the map. Every zone has a waypoint. A lot of times they're in, or I should say most, some of these preliminary zones, I'm in Act 1 just so I could show you guys some things. But they all have waypoints. I would highly recommend exploring each zone to 100%. You get a little reward for it anyway. And then find that waypoint so you can move there. But again, you can only move from waypoint to waypoint if you actually have those waypoints discovered. Another way to go ahead and do some of this stuff to teleport around is you've got return scrolls. So I try to keep a decent amount of those in my bag. I've got mine key bound to, I think it's 0. It'll drop it. It will bring me back to whatever town is in the act I'm in. And then I can use that return scroll to go back where I was in the level I was just at. Going through the rest of the stuff in this preliminary town, you've also got like a peddler where you can buy some of this simple stuff from. I do highly recommend making sure you have health and mana pots on you. I already talked about the return scrolls. You can also sell things here. Over the course of the game, you'll find those little gold guys, the grave diggers. You'll get gold. You'll be able to craft some of that stuff. I'm not going to go over it now, but you can use that to build some gold bars and sell. It's nice. Next, you've got the blacksmith, which we went to earlier. You can see there's a shop. Disassemble. This is where you take all the stuff that you're not going to use and then go to disassemble it. I look at this before I go to them. There's a group button at the bottom here. You can just mass group. It brings everything over that's in there. And then you can go ahead and click disassemble. You get some mats. Yay. You could look at runes, materials, all sorts of different stuff. There's the enchant, which we already covered. Not going to go through that in detail now. And then there's the gear shop, which I have not bought any of these, honestly. Like, I've got a gold's going to become a bottleneck at some point, so I'm not going to spend gold here. But you can also sell some stuff to him as well. Next up is the mystic. We talked about rune growth. You can drop stuff in there. You're definitely going to want to do that. Rune enchant. This is another thing where, again, there's more abilities here depending what you're looking at. You can click this on over here, register. Now, I don't have anything in my bag, but you can build this up to make it a little bit better in ways. I haven't tinkered with that at all, but it's something to know about. Again, you've got your runes to equip, and you've got your skills here. This is where you want to drop them, and I've already mentioned hitting control to jump around those as well. Mailbox, that's your standard mailbox situation. Keep an eye out for when that's ever in. Storage is critical. Make sure that you have as much as you can in here. I have not, again, I'm trying not to spend money, but I'm dropping stuff in there. There's different tabs that you can do to unlock, and then you can get different things. But again, I'm trying not to use any of these, so that way I don't have to spend money on the game necessarily. But they give you convenience abilities to do that. If I do like the game and it ends up being long-term, I will do it. Now, this recruitment board, I want to mention this because oddly enough, this is actually very confusing. There's the ranking aspect of it, which is sort of your, what I call EPing, which you just get to show off who's ranked, where you at, all that sort of thing. Great, cool. The recruit part I originally thought maybe this was for guilds, and I'll get into that in a second. It's not. So there are two different things you can do on the daily. There are raids. I did mine yesterday. So I've still got 5 hours, so it resets every night at 7 or around 7 or 8 my Eastern Standard Time. You've got to have a required level to do these. So just keep an eye on them. I will say that even though you're level 30 or 40, you can get insta-killed in these things. It really matters about what sort of resists you have. So you can see dungeon element here. It won't let me highlight it, but it's fire, frost. And then that looks like it's poison. It's kind of hard to tell. As you go in there, it's going to be critical. You can get some gear in there, some runestone stuff. That's where I got my specific staff that I currently have. One of the nice things that I want to mention with this is you can click enter and it will match make you with this. So you can, and you can form parties in the game over here where you can create a party or raid. I actually think this system should be a little bit better. Sometimes getting to the same areas, someone can be a little bit difficult. I don't want to focus on that in this video, but that's there. I believe it's level 30 that you can start entering these and matchmaking. And while you're in matchmaking, just run around, see what's going on, do quests or whatever. And then a thing will pop up at the top of your screen and you click the little circle to say yes or accept. And sometimes it takes a while for everybody to accept. And then the other one is called the Spire of Barrier. This is, I'm not going to get into detail on this, but it's waves of attacks and you can get some, gold and stuff from this. It helps build it up. So try to make sure to do these this one, doesn't show if there's a cooldown or not on it, but it shows that I've already got my 20. So until I hit reset, I am unable to currently go into the other difficulties. I'm not sure how to do that yet, but make sure to do those every day once you get to those levels the best you can. And if you get carried, that's fine. Who cares? I moved to a different town in a later act so you can see some of the more other stuff that shows up. You can eventually see an ore collector. Actually, I think there was an alchemy desk in the first or second town. I haven't bought any of these, but you get a lot of these stones over the course of the game. You can see I've got about 20,000 at the moment. I'm saving to decide what I really want to get, and then eventually some other currencies. Again, sells, but don't stress too much about that as an early player. The alchemy desk is sort of your crafting situation. I haven't played with this too much. There's only one slot. This is also where you can craft your gold that I had mentioned earlier and kind of craft some of this stuff earlier. You can see, okay, I can craft 2 gold bars. I'm going to do that right now. It was 600. I'll sell it for whatever I sell it for. And you can see as I was in there, it's going to take me 20 minutes and I can't do any of these other ones. These are unlocked. That is your convenience cost to do things. Guild manager. This is something that I think you need it. Once you hit level 20, you can join a guild. It costs 100,000 gold to start a guild. You can see I started one. There's only a couple people and it's me and some alliance mates from another game. People can request to join in. There's management things. There's things you can change. There's guild buffs. I don't know how serious we're going to take. It's me and one other guy right now. If you want to join, hit me up. Logan's Hammer, you can see in there. I've got some other people from some other games that might be joining us. We'll see. And then one of the other things in here is the auction house. The auction house is probably what I fear is the biggest pay to win type aspect. You can buy and sell things on here. You can see I'm trying to sell a couple things just to test out the market. They didn't fail. It didn't cost me anything. I don't know. Seeing if any of this stuff can sell. I have this thing. Register auction. I'm going to bid it. What do I want to bid it for? I don't know. 300. Okay. Buyout. Let's do it for 1 day. Buyout. I don't know. Maybe I'll try 3,000. See if anybody's interested in that. I have no idea. I have no sense. Or let's go 3,500. I have no sense of the economy whatsoever. I'm just dropping stuff in here to test it out. Those rubies, these are the things that you can only buy through cash, which I don't love, but it sort of is what it is. And I want to try to see, get a feel for these. Maybe somebody buys them, maybe they don't. I don't know. But, if you can get some of those rubies, then you can come over here and, let's just search for stuff here. Here you go. Let's just search for uniques, weapons. All right, you can see how much some of this stuff costs. Like this person is, some crazy level bow identify. They've got it in here for like 1 million rubies. Okay, like great. Like, am I going to do that? No. And close it. I mean, look at that. It's crazy. I can bid on it. All right, so I can bid 100, but I'm not, and that's something like someone might want to do. But you come through here and look at it. You can see how much some of these cost. Up to you to decide if you really want to do it. I've got a staff going right now. You scroll down, see what you might want. But this is how the auction house works. I would suggest, unless you're going to pay for this, don't stress about it. If you get a good drop it in here. See if you can sell it. One of the last things I want to mention, because storage management does become a thing, you get quest items from finishing quests and they go in your bag. Just use them. It tells you part of the story. You don't need to keep it for anything. It's a simple thing. I did not realize this at first, but it is something that you should just drop in here and go, oh, okay, so I don't need to keep that in my bag. Great. And it just cleans up a spot. A simple thing, but very critical, is making sure you equip your pot. So if you click I, which gets you into this section, click over on your potions. You can go ahead and sit here and auto use certain things. Now, when you're in here and you want to equip something, just click equip. It'll bring here and it just goes to a section. Now, I don't actually want that there because that's where I'll have secondary pots. But if possible, have it so that you have health and mana pots, 2 that are on auto that are synced or that are not tied directly to, like, say another one. So like this one, if I can use this one in that spot over, you know, that one, it's like, okay, so maybe my items in my 2 button and my 4 button won't share a cooldown. So if I get super low in mana or health, I can have the auto use going and then manually hit the either 3 or 4 button. Now, it doesn't always work out that way because sometimes they are overlapping and you don't have the other mats, but try to do that if you can. You can certainly identify items in the game if you want. I haven't done this very much, but when you do get the question marks, if it's a unique, probably I'd do it. If not, I don't know. So one of the last things I want to mention, pets. You can buy these. You do get some remaining time, or you get some time through some stuff they give you free in game to use the auto loot. I definitely could see this something as people wanting to buy. It's fairly cheap on a monthly basis. It is sort of a way to get subscription. I would be really annoyed without my pet. It depends on your patience. Last thing I'm going to cover in this video, there is a social section here at the top. If you click this little sandwich over here, there's a bunch of stuff. I don't want to go through it all, but a way to make friends, find a friend, friend request, block list, all that sort of thing. You can make friends in game to whisper. Now, another thing, you've got your chat function over here. This is not the greatest chat in the world. I have not figured out how to keep it off to the side yet. I wish I could, but you know, when I close it, it's gone. But that means this thing is there and covered. So I'm like, okay, well, so you can keep this up if you want, but it'd be nice if it was a little bit smaller. So that's all I'm going to cover in this video. It's a little bit longer for some starter basics, but I've been asked a lot of questions about the game, so I wanted to throw some of the stuff out there. If you want to see more videos about Undecember, I'm definitely going to keep covering the game for now. Want to see what happens once we hit the end game and what it's like, if it's still fun or if it's pay to win, all that sort of thing. And if you want to subscribe, hammer down like buttons, notification bells. Appreciate you either way if you made it this far. Until next time, hope you have a wonderful day.